All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for having me. And what we're going to talk today a little bit about is shaping the future of performance improvement and digitizing the things that we do. I'm going to look at my screen, but I'll try to make periodic eye contact. The background for today's conversation is pretty straightforward, and you can see that here. Everybody's becoming more interconnected and digital, pretty much, except for performance improvement people. Most of our methodologies continue to be, for whatever reason, flat and analog. And in our opinion, that drives a lot of inefficiency and vulnerability, and it tears at the relationships that we're trying to have with our clients. So today's theme is really about taking our concepts and our method, our ideas, and transforming them into actions and tools. I might have that backwards, but tools and actions, whatever, making them tangible things, not concepts. So you can see the highlights down below, and that's what we're going to focus on. Before we get too deep into it, I just want to say this is my life and yours. We're now on day 109, and everybody's life, come like March 17th or something like that, fundamentally changed. So today, to be very respectful of our situation, today's about reality. And it's also about how do we take this new reality and create some momentum, extend our reach, and really demonstrate what we're all about, which is achieving and demonstrating results. There's a bunch of references associated with this. Some of them are here. You'll see some on other slides. I kind of put this in microfont on purpose. As one, it was practical, but then it kind of became a joke because there's a lot going on here. And the purpose is twofold. One, if you ever are interested in this, you'll be able to get it from the ISPI SoCal folks. But when you see it, what it really represents is part, opinion, as that's what we do as presumed experts, but also opinion based in science. So what are we trying to get a handle on? Uncertainty. And uncertainty is pretty simple. It's just imperfect info when you boil it down. And there's a lot of different terms for it. It could be risk, it could be ambiguity, it could be, I don't know what's going on in the future. What is it Donald Rumsfeld said, the known knowns and the known unknowns. But whatever those terms are, whatever you want to use, the fact is that those things impact strategy, planning, decision-making, and our action. But, as some of us sit here, some of the uncertainty is, do I even have a job? What's my job going to look like? We're hearing now that people are kind of getting into the rhythm of being virtual. 30, 50, 70% of some jobs or some organizations are going to remain virtual. So what's that mean to me, for me, and what am I going to do differently? That's all kind of stuff that we need to think about as performance improvement people. Before we get into, we're going to look at a couple of tools, but as it relates to our profession, we have a bunch of different models available to us, and they're all great concepts, but they're almost impossible to implement. So performance architecture is one of those models. I noticed Roger Addison is one of the participants today, and I advise you to look at the book that he wrote with Lynn Carney and Carol Haig on the topic. But how do you make this real? And how do you make it tangible in a way that the data you collect is actually available to some people? Another model that's pretty popular is Gilbert's behavior engineering model. Again, very good concept, pretty hard to implement. What do you do with it? So let's peel the onion a little bit on these. This boils down to 4 big chunks: analysis, planning, you can see them here, project management, reporting, decision making. You got to have a smart way of implementing this. And if you think about bigger organizations, there's a bunch of these going on at any given point in time. So how do you integrate them? It's a fair question. When you look at the Gilbert model, it's not only a pretty decent model for analysis, but then there's some solutions buried down in here. But consultants, and I'm not picking on consultants because probably 70% of the people in this presentation have some kind of consulting background or maybe active. They come up with 5 go-to solutions, which you can see here. I'm calling it Stop C. Why? There's hundreds of things you can do for clients. But consultants, you know, for better or worse, they get paid on time, not results. And so in order to make any money, you got to take a while. And all of these are characterized mainly by the length of time it takes to get to the end. So there's faster ways of doing things, is the bottom line. If you were really going to make a Gilbert model practical, this is probably what it would look like. You got to have a smart way of sorting through the options. Now, so we've got a couple models. We know we've got to change a little bit. What's the future of work look like? Well, we don't know, but everybody's looking at it. And this slide comes from you know, January, February, before COVID. A lot of people are looking at it now. And here's what we think it means. You're seeing all these terms: the fluid organization, which is more true than ever before, the open source organization, distributed, the virtual organization. You see over here, open, neighborly. Everybody, or you know, a lot of people have power and authority. But down here on the left, I think this is where the rubber meets the road. We really have to focus on those things that are human and let machines do those things that are inherently, or could be inherently, data-driven, mechanized. Because what's going to happen as we sit here is our jobs are changing. So not only that, but job growth is changing. Again, we're right in the middle of this, right? 2020, here we are. This slide, by the way, comes from a guy named Steve Levy. Now that I've mentioned his name, you'll see him in various news reports coming out of Sacramento, either economic related or jobs related. I have a lot of time for Steve Levy, who's based next door in Palo Alto. But here's what's going on. Low wage jobs going up, high wage jobs going up, middle wage jobs, which are oftentimes performance improvement people, are going down. And my guess is that this is even more pronounced now that we're living in this pandemic world. So what about it? Well, what are the things that people want from performance consultants? Over here on the left, industry knowledge, data collection, analysis, these top 5 or 6 bullets, all of that you can automate. You don't need people for that. But when you get down here, it starts getting a little bit blurrier. Solution development takes people, project management, probably a blend. And empathy, that's all human. And so when we can take these top things and we can automate them, we're going to give ourselves and our clients a lot more certainty, a lot more efficiency or effectiveness, a lot more time, and a lot more money, because it's not going to take as long. We're going to be able to compress things. So what's it mean? It means my proposal to you today is to create an augmented you, because you are going to be able to maximize your value when you can use tools that accelerate the work that needs to be done. And this is what bosses want, right? Any of our clients want, if you kind of just go over to the right and cut to the chase, clear business cases for new initiatives, right? How do I get buy-in over here? How do I inform investment decisions? All of these things are what clients or leaders are asking for, and it's stuff that we got to be able to provide fast. So going back to these persistent issues, people need data in the biggest way possible. People want to know they're getting the best solutions at the fastest time and the best value, right? Everybody wants this stuff. but human alone is not going to cut it. So we need to change the way we do things in the performance improvement arena. But stuff gets in the way. All right, what gets in the way? Misdiagnosis of issues, right? It's legend. Bias, either overtly or covertly. Poor follow through. That could either be on the consultant side or it could be on the client side. But technology can take care of a lot of that stuff. What doesn't take care of it is the barrage of models that are foisted on us when we can't change. So somebody reads something in the paper, somebody reads a new book, somebody sees something, and we end up with all these models that are supposed to be based in the science, but they're not. They're based mainly on marketing terminology. And the goal in every one of these things is to get you connected, get you hooked actually, to the language. We need to bring back the core science. And when you do that, it's going to be a home run. So it'll also help eliminate a lot of the tools, or whatever we call tools now, that are interesting, but they're not integrated, they're not secure, and they take too much work. So we got to have something better. What we're advocating, by the way, is a way to make things easy, characterized by the use of data or evidence. And we were also talking about how we take these various tools and allow them to be accelerants for the type of culture that you're driving toward. If you just take a tool and you try to plop it into an organization, it's probably not going to work. But if you have a tool that can conform to a client's language and processes, it's a home run. That's what we do. So when you do that, you're collecting great information, you're building ability and confidence, and that confidence ultimately leads to motivation. So that's kind of the net of how I see the performance improvement world and what we can do to help it. Here at our company, we build technologies that accelerate organizational performance. And I just want to go over a couple of those with you, just as, you know, just to kind of show you what the possibilities are. The theme of ops boils down to three questions, which is, are we focused on the right issue? Are we focused on the right solutions? And did we actually fix anything? So we're going to look at these tools in three big chunks. First one, analysis. And going back to that certainty thing, how certain am I that I've identified the best solutions? And that could be for anything. It could be for a task, it could be for a job, it could be for a functional area, it doesn't matter. But I'm looking for a way, as a client, I'm looking for a way for something that's unbiased. As a provider, I'm looking for a way that's going to really save people money and time. So we look at analysis in three chunks. If you kind of go over to the right, a knee tap, an X-ray, and an MRI. If you're going to do brain surgery on somebody, you're not going to do a knee tap on them. You're going to put them in a machine and really find out what's going on in there. But there are appropriate times to use a knee tap. And we'll look at the first couple of these just in like 2 minutes. The knee tap is kind of fun and funny because it starts with most client, the reality of most client engagements, which is a client that already has figured out what they want to do. So 3 clicks, the first one being select the solution that you want to implement. Right? And so they can pick organizational structures, selection standards, performance expectations, training. They can do whatever they want. Click. All right. Why are you doing that? Automatically generated options. Pick one. And then the machine says, okay, that's pretty good. Here's some other things that you might want to think about. So now you have a client who maybe is or isn't on track. And you as an expert can say, that's a good idea. And the machine either confirming you or the client and providing some other alternatives, right? So you're trusting in the algorithm. but the algorithm or the machine, if you don't believe it, is the opponent. And so you can just shift your various points and clicks, and you can ultimately let the client experiment, or you can experiment with the client, but super quick, takes 2 minutes to do. An X-ray, 4-step analysis. You see over here, you see 6 or 7 things listed, but some of them are administrative, so I'm not going to count those as steps. But what's the goal? What's the task list, or how does the work get done? Where do we think the problem is, and how do we fix it? If you can get through all of that in less than an hour, mind you, it auto-generates a prioritized list of gaps and solution options. So again, you can have a meaningful conversation with clients. All right, that's a couple of examples. Now, we've taken that, by the way, and we've done these incredible analyses, either in multiple countries, in multiple business units, in distributed organizations, and by distributed, I mean worldwide. And you can do things that normally take months, you can do them in a few days. One thing I want to point out about that whole distributedness thing is we have been a virtual company since our inception 17 years ago. A lot of people are just figuring that out now. But it's all about hiring the right people, giving them the right tools to do the job, having great communication platforms. And at the end of the day, some of the stuff that you're looking at here is just a different way of communicating. But it's a way that captures the data. And this is a good example, this employee engagement thing. It boils down to, am I hearing my team? And what I'd like to suggest to you is that as soon as somebody shows up with an employee engagement thing that has got a bunch of questions and a 5 or 9 point Likert scale or something like that, run away. Because until March, there were no people that were worth keeping anyway, who would give you a 1 or a 2, meaning I hate or I slightly hate something, and then stay with the organization. Why would anybody do that? Doesn't make any sense. Go find something else to do or another place to do it. You can do employee engagement with one question. What can we do better around here? And once you get those answers, then you've got to do something with them. You've got to assign them, you got to get them done, and you've got to show people that they've been done. And when you do that, you get a lot of great results. So we do this in nursing a lot. And you can see kind of, this is what it looks like over on a phone. But these nurses, and by the way, nurse turnover costs an average hospital about $373,000 per 1%. And average turnover is like 17% in a hospital. So there's a lot of money going in the garbage can if you can't retain nurses. But if you can communicate with them, then you can show them that you're hearing. You can show them that their ideas are being acted upon by people that they recognize as leaders in the organization. And that will also manifest itself in various awards or recognition. The last thing I want to talk about real quick is infection control, since it's timely and relevant. We do a lot of infection control right now in nursing homes. And there's a couple of ways that these nursing homes can do this work that it's killing literally thousands of elders every year before COVID-19. And the reason is, a lot of the reason is you have a lot of turnover, you have a lot of things changing, but CDC tries to attack this with forms. And they look just like this, right? A flow chart, a bunch of forms, and then a bunch of instructions. We've automated it. And the automation kind of looks like this. What's the signs and symptoms? Point and click, we're showing COVID here. If there's a few of those things popping up, there's an early warning system. There's a ton of reports that show people what's going on, and then hopefully if everybody does their job, the trend takes care of itself, right? This is real. Everything you see here is real. Here's one pretty cool case study. This happened in February. just a few miles away from what they're calling ground zero in Kirkland, Washington for COVID. Looked like over here in this left-hand diagram, on the right side of the diagram, there were 3 or 4 blue bars showing a possible flu outbreak. That showed up in their early warning system, and the flu symptoms did expand through the hospital, but they were able to jump on it early, administer a prophylactic, I think it was Tamiflu, and they had 60 suspected infections that resulted in 4 actuals and no deaths, which is almost impossible to believe in a nursing home environment. So the net of the conversation is there's a lot you can do with our performance improvement science. It turns us into organizational physicians, turns you into an organizational physician, and allows you to help your clients in a lot of different ways. But what we've learned is this: you got to have clear success criteria. You've got to have sponsors and stakeholders on board. You've got to have that next level of leadership down with a lot of energy, and you've got to have some sort of an incentive. And when you can do that, give people the things they need to get the job done, it's going to be a massive success. If any of this is interesting to you, or you want to talk about any of it in detail, then I'd be happy to. With that, that's kind of setting the stage for a conversation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.